Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're running a little late today for our meeting for July the 14th. We had some technical difficulties, and we apologize for that. In order to make up some time, we went through some of the administrative items on our agenda, such as approving our minutes from the June 9th and June 23rd open session meetings. Also approving the minutes from the May 12th and the June 9th executive session minutes. And additionally, we had some special licenses, which we also took the time to approve this evening. We will return to the first thing on our agenda, and I would like to welcome Mr. Reardon to our meeting.
How are you?
We're doing well. Sorry about the delay.
No issues.
And this evening, Mr. Reardon is here for a hearing on the transfer of the all-alcoholic beverages package store license. Mr. Reardon's group are hopefully the new owners of Higgins Package Store. And I have a memo from the police chief who did some due diligence on the town's behalf. And the one item he did note was at one of the stores that your company owns in Danvers, there were some issues with the purchase of alcohol to minors. And, that's just something we take seriously in Dover. And, we wanted to learn a little bit about some of the processes. I'm sure you learned from this. So some of the processes that you have in place to prevent this from, or as best as you can to prevent it from happening.
So we, thank you for inviting me tonight. That was our first location up in Danvers, Massachusetts. Our policy when we opened our first location was we checked everyone's ID that looked under 40 years old. And we gave the manager's discretion as to if they didn't have their ID, the clerk could defer to the manager, and the manager can make the decision. We're open 2 weeks. It was a Friday night, 6:30 at night. The Danvers Police Department did a routine sting in the community and sent a girl that was no doubt in my mind after watching the video was under 21 years. No question in my mind. I'd be surprised if she was 16 years old. And our manager deferred to the manager. The manager made a decision that she'd be okay and told her to come back next time with her ID. When she came back, she came in with the Danvers Police Department to explain that we did certain. What I did was I immediately closed the store. I suspended the manager while I did investigation. We have video surveillance, 24-hour web-based surveillance. I watched the video. I had our associate that worked that day write an affidavit while it's fresh in her mind, send me an email, and also the manager. We decided that the manager wrote policy, and we terminated that relationship with the manager. One of the processes that I have in place in that store, as well as all of them, and if approved after 2 years, the state of Massachusetts mandates that the general manager, which is myself, would be tip certified. I tip certify all employees. Because I think it's you have to be civic-minded and you have to be responsible. So we recertified all the employees in the store. And they went in front of the selectmen, and as you can imagine, they weren't happy. I was there 2 weeks. And they gave us a one-day closing, held the babies for 1 year. And everything went perfect. 3 years later, we had an associate that chose just not to check it out. Same issue, same problem. We terminated our relationship with the employee, went in front of the town, and they gave us a 3-day closing and held the babies for 1 year. We have, since then, opened up 3 other stores. We have never had an issue at all. Danvers is a fantastic community. They do everything that I want them to do if I was living in the community. We felt that we just, we had to retrain and change some policies. Our policy is very simple. We check every idea. And I didn't want to get into this end of the business to be worried about not being civic-minded. I live in the next community. I live in Westwood. I have young kids that are in the high school and in the middle school. I coach sports for Dover in football. I don't want to be worried about are we serving a minor that's going to hurt somebody or themselves. I think we have a really strong policy and I take it extremely serious.
I really appreciate, all that background information, and certainly puts my mind at ease.
Mine too.
I do have a couple of related questions. You mentioned video surveillance. Do you have them in all your existing stores?
Correct. In all of our stores, it's a web-based security camera that records over itself every 45 days. So I mean, right now I can pull out my phone and I can be looking at any of our other 4 stores, and we watch the transaction of the employees. It's not as much as Big Brother watching all the employees, it's their safety as well as our safety. All of our other stores, except for the one that we're opening on Monday, are all based inside the BJ's wholesale place. They're more not a traditional fine wine shop like we're hoping to open across the street. We've chosen to try to take a right on the fork, and we're opening one in Easton, which will be a fine wine and beer shop, craft beers, next to Rochelle. It's a freestanding opportunity where we're going to kind of have more items, better selection. That's the only reason for the video, and I'm not sure that I'm going to need it in this location here. I haven't really made that business decision. If that's a condition that you want to put in,
You predicted the next question.
it's not an issue at all. As long as the landlord, and I don't think the landlord is going to have an issue, security cameras are easy. It's a great system that we have. Sometimes it's a little addicting. My wife will give me a hard time for looking at the stores, so but at the end of the day, I'm a little more rested.
Well, you can predict your profitability, I guess, by watching the traffic. That's why you're watching that, right?
Exactly right. I look to see, are we understaffed? Are we servicing the customer properly? And are we doing all the things? The other thing that I wanted to just bring up real quick, that I learned a lot from this second instance up in Danvers is, we have a gentleman who does our training, who does the training for the Massachusetts Alcohol Beverage Control Commission. His name is Mike Marcantonio, and he owns Grand Workshop in Native. He is the Grand Poobah of tip certification. And one thing he said is, Mike, why wait for the town to do this thing? Why don't you sting yourself? So we hired a company out of Minnesota called Bestmark. And I give them 15 things that they go in, and up to including, is the store neat, is it clean, did the person greet you when you walk in the door, did the person look you in the eye, did they escort you to the area, did they say, thanks coming in, I hope you enjoy that, and did they check your ID? So we do that every month. I don't know when they come. I get an email 2 days later with the report card, which I would include here. It's not only about the checking the ID, which is paramount, it's making sure that the consumer had a good experience when they were there. Sure. And so I believe that's it's money well spent for us. To your point earlier, it kind of gauges the traffic and tells me if, are we understaffed, overstaffed, is everybody standing around on their phones, things like that, and I don't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. We believe that this business is underdeveloped where it is. We think that our goal will be to bring it up to the current status that it should be, like the market next door. Replace the carpet, replace the paneling, and fix the ceiling, and put in better floors like they have next door. Better selection. We believe it's under-indexed with wines from sake and kosher wines and all kinds of other segments that are not available right now to the consumer that walks in. And that's really what we want to bring to the table in the store.
Thank you.
I appreciate very much the fact that not only are you a father, but that your children are in school next door, in the town next door, and that you co here. Because I think, in a way, it's a true testimony to your commitment to the community of Dover. And this is a very important business in a town that doesn't have many businesses. And so we certainly wish you well, and I'm very comfortable with the whole plan as you have proposed.
Thank you so much.
So, Doug, do you have any more comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence. I'm still getting used to this thing here.
No, Ms.
So, thank you. So then I would make a motion to approve the all alcoholic beverages license for package stores. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Utah? Okay, for the new owners of Higgins Market.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Good
much
luck.
for coming in.
Appreciate
as
it.
well.
Thank you so much.
I look
Thanks
forward
very much.
to visiting the
Yes, in
store
order.
when
Yeah.
it's all renovated.
Well, it's up to the state will drive the bus, and when they're done, hopefully we'll get it by Labor Day.
Okay.
Thank you
Sounds
very much.
good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Exactly. I will get you my information.
Okay.
Great answer too. Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, only one of these? All right, moving right along. The next item of business is a report regarding 46 Springdale Avenue. Last week, we had an all-chairs meeting in which I was joined by the chairs of the Warrant Committee, Concom, Open Space, the Board of Health,
Planning.
and the Planning Board. And we talked about where we stand with respect to 46 Springdale. We all agreed that the message at town meeting from the citizens of Dover was to maintain the back meadows as conservation, and we thought that we should begin to think about a timeline and a plan to bring something to town meeting in connection with maintaining that back meadow as potentially open space. One of the things that we as a committee should talk about and discuss, and maybe not this evening, something for both of you to think about, is in order to do that, which seemed to be the town's will at town meeting, we would need to change the municipal use zoning or restriction on the property to a conservation restriction. So I'm not asking for us to make a decision tonight, but it is something that, perhaps at our next meeting, we can discuss so that we can then convene with all those other committees again and begin to talk about, what our plan would be to bring this to town meeting next year. But it was a really good meeting, and I thank Mr. Ramsey for coordinating it. It was a lot of good discussion, and it was nice to see that we all heard the same message.
Good. I'm excited.
Yes, it should be. Our next item of business is, and Ms. Putoch, I believe you're going to discuss this, is disclosure of financial interest on a municipal employee.
Yes. As you all know, with the promotion of Craig Hughes from deputy fire chief to fire chief in April, the position of deputy chief opened up, which was filled by Paul Lutazzi through promotion, which then opened the position of fire lieutenant. The Board of Fire Engineers in May appointed Carl Warnick as the fire lieutenant. Mr. Warnick is also our superintendent of building maintenance, and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, conflict of interest, the board would need to declare Mr. Warnick as exempt under Section 20F and declare him as a special municipal employee in order for him to hold both positions. So we are asking the board to do that this evening, and there is, if you choose to do so, a motion in your packet, and also a conflict of interest form that the board would need to sign in order for that to occur, which would then go on file with the town clerk.
Okay, and I see that the town clerk also received the form from Mr. Hughes.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So does anybody have anything for discussion here? I think we've followed the process.
Right.
And I think it makes a lot of sense to have Mr. Warnick serve in both positions. So as a matter of course, should I read this motion, or can I?
If you would, please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is the motion for appointment of a part-time fire lieutenant, and this is to approve pursuant to General Law, Chapter 268A, 20F, the request of the Board of Fire Engineers to exempt Carl Warnick interest in part-time fire lieutenant position from the prohibition of general law, chapter 268A, section 20, and to authorize Carl Warnick to serve as fire lieutenant under the direction of fire chief, provided that the fire chief first certifies to the town clerk that the services to be provided by Carl Warnick as fire lieutenant cannot be performed by a current fire department employee as part of his or her regular duty. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Going to the chair to sign, please.
It was a lot of reading.
Yes. Thank you.
Just the one.
Just the one, please.
Thank you very much. And now, for those of you who are sick of hearing my voice, I'm turning this over to Ms. McCann.
Thank you very much,
That's
Ms.
the next
Hunter.
item
Thank you,
on the
thank you.
agenda.
Last meeting, I was able to speak about the fine negotiations that we had with the Department of Public Works, and so pleased to now move that we execute the fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 19 agreement between the Town of Dover and Laborers Local 1116.
So, did you make a motion? Since
I'm sorry.
I wasn't talking.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to move that we execute this agreement between the Town of Dover and Laborers Local 1116.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I would like to say, Mr. Ramsey, I hope you brought a picture of you eating pizza. You know, it was just a very collaborative negotiation, and, you know, I thank both of you for really making the town more of a collaborative work environment.
Thank you
It
very
was
much.
wonderful, wasn't
It
it?
really was. First time in my experience.
It was great.
So, thank you.
For anyone who didn't have the chance to see last meeting, the story we're alluding to is that at the final day of negotiation, there was a hot pizza provided for all people, and especially for Mr. Ramsey. So it was a very, very pleasant interaction, the full negotiation.
A lot of fun.
There's always a lot of signing.
What I remember from watching the Board of Selectmen in the past was that there was always a lot of laughter at the point of signing. Everybody was sort of laughing as they passed papers around.
My sister, who is a critique, says that we make a lot of noise shuffling papers. And I said to her, since I've never watched myself. Thank you, Miss. Oh, one more. And next on the agenda, I think, is the approval of the FEMA hazard mitigation plan. And I think it was a few months ago, we had a presentation, and I would very much like to thank Chief McGowan for then taking charge of putting together the final plan, so thank you, Chief. And Ms. Putach, you have something for us?
I have a certificate of adoption for the Board of Selectmen, so after you have voted to adopt the 2016 update to the Town of Dover Hazard Mitigation Plan, all three board members could sign off on it.
Excellent. So I move that we adopt the update for Dover's hazard mitigation plan.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the actual plan is on the website for those who want to review it, or?
It will be once it's approved.
Okay. It's a lengthy document, and a lot of work does go into it, so. If you can't sleep some night, go. Right, and now, for appointments, and as you recall, I challenged all three of us last meeting to try and get all our appointments done by September, did I say September 1st or September 30th? See, I can't even
You said
remember my
the 30th.
agenda.
30th.
All right. And so some of us were very active. Seems as though the challenger wasn't as active. So I do thank you. So I also thank whomever put together this cheat sheet for us.
Thank you.
Yes, it's very, very helpful. So we do have a couple of appointments in open space. Mr. Lawrence, this was your assignment. Would you like to make those appointments, reappointments?
Yes, Ms. Hunter, thank you. For the Open Space Committee, I have 3 appointments. The first is to appoint Justine Kent Uritam, or reappoint, Justine Kent Uritam for a 3-year term. The second is to reappoint Boynton Glidden for a 3-year term, and that would be effective July 1st, 2016. The third appointment is to reappoint Amy Moot for another 3-year term. Regarding the Town Report Committee, I have 2 appointments, and those are Jill French, to reappoint her for a 3-year term, and Mary Calamares, to reappoint her for a 3-year term as well.
So then I move that we approve the appointments in open space and on the Town Report Committee.
Excellent. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And once again, I would like to really thank all the members of both of these committees for all the hard work that they do in town. And I believe, Greer, you may have an appointment for us.
I do. I've been in touch with Linda Hollier, who has requested that Shoba Frey and Melissa Frank be appointed to the Dover Cultural Council, so if the board approves, they could make that motion.
All right, so I would make a motion to accept those appointments.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And again, thank you to the Dover Cultural. And Ms. McCann, I believe you have a couple of appointments, and before you start, I was wondering if you might be willing to accept to be the liaison for CMAT.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hunter. I'd be delighted, as a matter of
I
fact. Thank you very
appreciate that.
much.
I thought it made some sense with the COA and...
Right, I appreciate that. I look forward to
All
it.
right.
Conservation Commission, near and dear to my heart. We have 5 reappointments. David Stapleton will be reappointed for a 3-year term. Sarah Monaco, reappointed for a 3-year term. Janet Bowser, another 3-year term. Larry Clausen, Associate, will be reappointed for his 1-year term. And James McLaughlin, Associate, reappointed for a 1-year term as well. Thank you all to everyone on Concom. I move that we accept these reappointments for Concom.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
I think you have some for Historical Commission?
I do. Thank you very much. Let me just turn to that page. So happy Jane Moore, Chair of Historical, has agreed to a reappointment for another 3 years, and Charlotte Serganor will take another 3-year term, as well as Paul Tedesco. We are still waiting on a confirmation from one other member who is away this part of the summer, so I'll let you know in August.
Okay.
But thank you to everyone on Historical. Very glad to have the commission stay intact.
Right, it's really a good
It's
working
wonderful.
group. Right. So I make a motion that we accept those reappointments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And Mr. Ramsey, I believe you have some appointments.
I do, Madam Chair. First, Chief of Communications, Chief McGowan has indicated willingness to re-up.
Thank you, Chief McGowan. So should we make
Do,
a motion?
please.
So I make a motion to accept Chief McGowan as Chief Communication Officer?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And then, jumping ahead to page 7. Craig Hughes has agreed to serve again as the Forest Warden.
And thank you, Mr. Hughes, and I move that we renominate Mr. Hughes as Forest Warden for a 3-year term. Is that correct?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for groundwater bylaw enforcement agent, both Mr. Junta and Mr. Angieri have indicated a willingness to re-up.
And so I move that we accept the reappointments of both Mr. Angieri and Mr. Gunter to the groundwater bylaw enforcement agent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those are 1-year terms.
Yes.
Okay.
And jumping ahead to page 9, Mr. Gilbert has agreed to re-up as a measure of wood and bark.
I move that we accept the appointment of Mr. Gilbert for measure of wood and bark.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would somebody please tell me what this is?
I think it's that there was a dispute over a cord of wood, that he would come out and say whether or not it was a full cord's worth.
He's a busy guy.
He is, out with the tree work, this week and stuff, so
Okay.
that's good.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I was just wondering what that was.
And on page 10, Mr. Hughes has again agreed to re-up for Metro West Regional Transit Authority representative.
Make a motion that we approve Mr. Hughes as Metro West Regional Transit Authority Associate.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any more, Mr. Ramsey?
I do, Madam Chair, page 13. Well, you challenged us at the last
Somebody's an
meeting. I took
overachiever.
this
The only
seriously.
person who wasn't challenged clearly was me.
So page 13, you see the list of police officers.
Yep.
The chief is recommending the reappointment of all of
Do
them.
we need to read
No.
the names? Okay, so I move that we appoint all the officers listed on page 13.
Great, thank you.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey, and thank you to the police officers.
I think that's all for now, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
I really appreciate this. I think we're a little ahead of where we were last year. And maybe, the chair will have a nomination. You never know.
Well, it's thanks to your leadership.
Right, that's what I
right.
was thinking too.
Yes.
You took the words right out of my mind.
Delegation.
Right. So we're here. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval for a Breaking Age charity bike ride. Do one of you have comments on this? So I guess I'll just reiterate what's on Chief McGowan's memo to us. So Breaking Age Ride is scheduled to come through Dover on September the 23rd. It's a Friday, and they're going to ride through between 7 and 8 a.m. And Chief McGowan has approved that we move ahead with giving them authorization to do so. So I would like to make a motion to approve the Breaking Age ride through Dover on September the 23rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And last on the agenda, and because of technical difficulties, I promised myself I wouldn't mess up my package, but I somehow did, and we do have police surplus equipment. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Maybe next meeting I'll get it right. So Chief McGowan is requesting that he is given authorization to dispose of certain equipment, and it is miscellaneous emergency equipment, light bars, lights, mounting brackets, and strobes that were removed from recent police cars that were auctioned off. I guess we auctioned the cars off without that. And he believes he might be able to realize somewhere between $100 and $300 for these items. And I believe we auction them off on a municipal website, is that correct?
That's where it starts, yes.
Right. And there are pictures of any of the items. So I would like to make a motion to give the police chief authorization to dispose of the surplus equipment mentioned earlier.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we, as I mentioned earlier, we did approve the minutes earlier, and we also approved some special licenses. Given that there are no citizens other than us here this evening, does anybody want to make a comment?
I would love to say thank you to Craig Hughes. I would love to say thank you to the town. When the paving was done on Haven Street a year ago, I know at the time they did the best that they could to make it a smooth transition over the railroad track, but it was always quite a bump, and they fixed it. 2 days ago. It is almost seamless now. It's unbelievable. It is the smoothest crossing of a railroad track I've ever seen.
Well, I'm going to have to
What a
drive
job.
over it.
It's really impressive, because I think it's very hard to go in and fix something after the fact. And I suppose most of us thought, well, unfortunately, until it's paved again, we're just going to have to learn to live with it. It's superb. I want to say thank you. So, thank you very much.
So with that, I make a motion to adjourn the
Second.
meeting this evening, and we next meet August 11th. Did I get the date right? So enjoy the rest of the month of July. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.